In this lesson, we are going to implement PayPal checkout in our e-commerce website. When user create an order, a button from PayPal checkout should be appear right after the order total. And when user click on it, user will be redirected to the PayPal screen like this. User can pay the price of order, the order total, by clicking on Pay Now. After successful payment, user should be redirected to the e-commerce website, and the state of payment from not paid should be converted to the paid. As you see, a message like this, payment was successfully show here, and the message paid at this time and date is gonna be appeared, and there is no pay button anymore because it's already paid. Let's go and implement adding PayPal to the e-commerce website. Here is the plan. First of all, we need to get client ID from PayPal. To get that, follow the instruction at this address, developer.paypal.com, and what I'm gonna do is to follow this instruction to get a client ID. At the very first step, you need to log in to developer.paypal.com. You need to create a user in the PayPal and then create PayPal developer account. And also you need to have a PayPal business account to be able to use PayPal API. After creating an account in PayPal, open this address, developer.paypal.com/developer/application. At this address, you have two modes. The first one, sandbox, it's just for test. And the second one is live. If you want to just test, keep sandbox. And if you want to create a live e-commerce website, click on live and then create app. Here we are going to test. I just keep sandbox and then click on create app. When you create an app, you need to set a name for your app, and for this app, a client ID will be generated. Set it to JS, Zona, or whatever you like to set as a name of your e-commerce website. And here, the sandbox business account, and click on create app. After creating app, you will have a client ID and a secret. In this lesson, we're not gonna use secret, and having client ID is enough. Select that, right click and copy, then go to your VS Code. In the root folder, select .env and create a new line and enter PayPal client ID, put equal sign and paste it like this. This is the first step. Second step is gonna be creating a route for /API/PayPal/client ID. Let's open backend folder server.js, and right after order, create a get method, app.get /API/PayPal/client ID. And here is the responder, res.send. We are going to send back the client ID. Client ID equal to config.PayPal client ID. Let's go to config.js and here add process.env.client ID. This client ID is exactly what we have right here. Good, we have done this step, and it's time to go to frontend and create get PayPal client ID in API.js. Close backend, open frontend. In the src, open API.js. At the very end, create a method for get PayPal client ID. Export const get PayPal client ID. It's async, doesn't get any parameter, and inside that we just send an AJAX request to get the ID. Const response await Axios. The parameter is gonna be API URL /API PayPal/client ID. Set headers for content type to application JSON, and there is no need to add any extra data. Check the response. If response.status text doesn't equal to OK through an error, and the message is gonna be response.data.message. Otherwise, return response.data.client ID. Nice. It's time to go to order screen.js and add PayPal checkout script. In the front end src screen, open order screen, and the main code is gonna be right here. Let us start by defining a function to add PayPal script. Const add PayPal SDK equal to async. Inside this function, first of all, we need to get the client ID. Const client ID equal to await get PayPal client ID. I need to import that from API. We use client ID to redirect user to the PayPal website. At this time, I want to show loading. Show loading and check if we already loaded PayPal or not. If window.paypal exists or not. If it doesn't exist, we need to load that. To load a script in a window, we need to create a script element and set its attribute and then append it to the document.body. Let's do that. Const script equal to document.createElement script. Set script type to text JavaScript. Set script source to PayPal. It's gonna be https://www.paypalobjects.com/api/checkout.js. The next line is for async. Set script.async to true, and when this script load, I'm going to define a callback for loading a script. Script.unload equal to this function, handle payment. Handle payment and pass client ID to that. We will implement handle payment later. And at the end, we need to append this script to the document.body. Document.body.append child script. That's it. If we already included PayPal script, we just call handle payment. Handle payment and pass client ID to that. Great. Let's implement handle payment. After add PayPal SDK, const handle payment. It's a function that accepts client ID, and inside this function I'm going to call button.render from PayPal because I want to show a button in the screen. Let's do that. Window.paypal.capital B button render function. Render function accepts a bunch of settings. The first setting is env, environment. We need to set it to sandbox or live. I'm going to set it to sandbox, like this. Second parameter is client, and in the client, we need to set for sandbox to the client ID we already created and loaded in the front end. And for production, set it to empty because it's not gonna be for production at the moment. After setting client, we need to set the language, locale. It's gonna be EN_US. And the next property is style, the button style. Make it responsive, set size to responsive, color to gold, and shape to pill. Good. We are going to enable pay now. Set commit to true. And it comes to define two important callback events. The first one is payment. Payment accepts two parameters, the data and the actions. Inside this, we need to return actions.payment.create. Here we are going to create a payment record. And what's the information of this payment record? For sure, transactions is the first one. Transaction is an array, and the first element of it is gonna be amount. And for amount, there are two values that we need to fill. The first one is total, and we're gonna get it from order.total price. And the second one is currency, and we set it to USD. We will fill order later. After defining the payment, it's time to define another function that will run after successful or failure payment. Unauthorize. Accept two parameters like payment, data, and actions. And inside that, we're gonna return actions.payment.execute function, and the promise of it is gonna be like this. At this point, the payment was successful. I need to show loading and call pay order function. Call pay order. We will implement that later. And after that, hide loading. So at this moment, we update the order record and set is paid to true and update the paid date. And at the end, show a message. Payment was successful. And set the callback inside show message to re-render order screen, because we're gonna update the state of the order screen right here, because we're gonna update the state of payment. And the last setting for PayPal button render is the ID of div. We are going to show button there. It's gonna be PayPal-button. After we render order screen, we need to define the ID of div that PayPal button should be rendered there. Put it exactly right here, sharp PayPal-button. And at the end, use then right here, because it's a promise. And inside the promise, set hide loading. We just implemented handle payment function, and it's time to use add PayPal SDK inside order screen and inside the render. After getting the order information, here I'm going to check if is paid is false. It means that if this order status is unpaid, add PayPal SDK, and I just pass total price. At the very top of add PayPal SDK, scroll up. Here I'm going to get total price and pass total price to handle payment. Put a comma here and also here to pass it to handle payment, and also use that in the definition of handle payment, and scroll down for the amount and get rid of order dot. Total payment is gonna come from add PayPal SDK and goes to handle payment. Let's check the results. Only keep the product with the ID, add it to cart, proceed to checkout, log in, enter shipping, select PayPal, and click on place order. A loading happens here, and I'm waiting to show a button. Let's check the error if it exists. It says PayPal button doesn't found. We need to add PayPal button in the render function. Let's go for it. Scroll down in the order screen, and inside the order summary section, right after order total, create an li and create a div and set ID of div to PayPal dash button. Close the div and close li. Let's check again. Refresh. This time PayPal button appears here. Set class to full width. So this time when I refresh, you see PayPal checkout appears here. Let's click on PayPal button. I will be redirected to the PayPal screen. Here it's the price of this order. Click on pay now and you will be redirected to the e-commerce website, and it says payment was successful. If you refresh this page, not paid doesn't change because we didn't implemented the pay order. I mean, we didn't update the state of this order in the MongoDB database. Let's add this feature, and by the end of this one, this lesson is gonna be done. Great. Let's follow the instruction for creating pay order in the API.js. Open API.js, and right after get PayPal client ID, export const pay order. It's an async function that gets order ID and payment result, and inside that we send an AJAX request to server to inform the server that this order was paid. Const, first of all, get token because we are going to send an authorized request, get user info, const response, await Axios, set URL to API URL /API /orders /ID of this order $, order ID, and /pay. It's the verb. Very nice. Next parameter is headers. Set authorization to barrier token. Make it like backtick. And set content type to application JSON. Put a comma here. Wrap it inside try catch like this, and in the catch part, if there is an error, we need to show that error. It's very like to this one. Return error. If error.response exists, use data.message, otherwise error.message. After getting response in the try section, we need to compare response dot status text. If it's not equal to OK, there is an error. Through new error response dot data dot message. Otherwise, return response dot data. Don't forget, we need to pass the payment result. Inside the Axios, right after header, create data equal to payment result. We need to pass the payment information to the server. Go to order screen, and in the unauthorized section, at this point we need to call pay order. Get rid of it, await pay order, and press tab to import that. It accepts two parameter order ID. To get order ID, I'm going to use parse request URL dot ID and information about the payments. I'm going to use the data field of PayPal. Order ID equal to data dot order ID. This ID is different from the one we have in our database. It's the order ID in the PayPal website. Payer ID equal to data dot payer ID. Payment ID is the last one, data dot payment ID. It's time to go to server and implement Pay API. Open order router function, order router, and at the very end, we're gonna define order pay. Order router. This time I'm gonna use put because it's a put request. It's gonna update the state of order. And here is the path, ID of order and pay action. It's unauthorized is auth should be here, and use express async handler inside that rec and res. Let's get the information about this order. Const order equal to await order.find by ID, and the ID comes from the rec.params. Because it's await, this function should be async. After getting the order, check if order exists, set is paid to true, and set paid at to current date, date dot now, and fill payment result like this. Payer ID equal to rec dot body dot payer ID, and duplicate that for payment ID and order ID. And after updating fields, it's time to save. Const updated order equal to await order dot save, and send back the data. Rest.send message should be order paid, and the updated order is gonna be like this. If the order doesn't exist, send status 404 and send message order not found. Let's go to the API in the front end, and here in the Axios, set method to put. Why put? Because in the order router, we set the order router to put for pay. Let's check the result. Click on pay now. Click pay now, and we are going to get back to our website. This time the status should be updated. As you see, paid at this time, and there is no PayPal button anymore, because when you just paid, there is no need to have PayPal button. If you refresh this page, you can see payment method is PayPal, and the paid is green. It means that it just paid successfully. That's it for this lesson. And what we did in last lesson so far was to completing an order from the very beginning of creating a shopping cart to placing an order in the e-commerce website and pay that with PayPal. In the next lesson, we are going to focus on managing products, and after that, managing orders by admin of the website. Until that lesson, bye-bye.